excited to be here. And Miguel, I'm excited to talk with you more today and hear more about what you're doing on the Butterfinger business and all the innovative things that you guys have been working on. So before we jump in, I just want to give our participants, a quick idea of who we are. So to introduce myself, my name is Melanie Kegley. As mentioned, I'm the Senior Account Executive on the CPG business at GroundTruth, which is a leading location-based marketing and tech company that really helps suppliers such as yourself connect with shoppers within their daily lives to help really drive brand awareness and purchase intent across your key retailers like Walmart, Target, Kroger, etc. We do that leveraging, precise targeting tools across display, OTT, and paid social as well. So that's just a little bit about me. But Miguel, do you care to just share a little bit more about you, your background, and your role at Ferrero?
Yes, of course. So thank you, Melanie, by the way. And I'm looking forward to the next 40 minutes or so together. So my name is Miguel Zorrilla. I am the Senior Marketing Director here at Ferrero. I am responsible for the Butterfinger brand business. I have spent quite a number of years in the chocolate category here in the US, so pushing about 12 years. Have worked on many of the brands within this category, and I will say I'm excited to be talking about Butterfinger. It has been quite a pleasure working on this brand, and I look forward to sharing some of my insights that I've gotten over the last 2 years on this brand.
Yes, I'm excited as well. Butterfinger is one of my favorites, so it's always exciting when you get to talk about something you love anyways. That's awesome. Very impressive. Thank you so much for sharing. So with that, I'm really excited to get things kicked off with our conversation, learn more about what you're doing to help drive innovation in the space. And for anyone watching, as mentioned, please feel free to submit questions throughout our discussion. And once we get to that Q&A session in about the last 10 minutes, we'll be sure to try to answer as many as we can. So with that, let's get things kicked off.
Perfect. Let's do it.
So what are your thoughts? Let's just start high level. What are your thoughts around innovation and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, you know what's funny? I feel like in the CPG world in particular, when you hear the word innovation, people tend to instantly think of a new product or that new shiny item. But by definition, innovation really is any new way of doing things, a new method, idea, or tactic. So yes, innovation can be a new product, but it also can be new ways of approaching things like artwork, advertising, partnerships, influencers. When I think about when Ferrero acquired Butterfinger 2 years ago and asked me to lead and revitalize this brand, I knew I had to think innovatively on multiple fronts to renew this iconic brand because I was solely focusing on the core business and revitalizing that and rejuvenating it for a new generation of chocolate consumers. So I really had to think innovatively across all touch points.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. I do think people a lot of times when they hear innovation, they think that it has to be something new. You have to come out with a new product in order to really, compete in the space. But you're right. Sometimes it's just thinking about things in a new way and how can we, reach new shoppers, leveraging various tactics, that they're in platforms that they're using in their daily lives. So, with that, how do you really start? Where do you really begin?
Isn't that the $1 million question?
Yeah.
So I would say whether it's product innovation or innovating through communications and advertising, you really want to find distinctive areas where your brand can break through, reach your target audience in a relevant, engaging, and authentic way. If I use, a little bit of a case study of Butterfinger, we launched a new campaign last year on the brand. And there were a few areas that we really identified that helped us really create a breakthrough campaign that has been working for us. The first thing we did was we knew that "No one lays a finger on your Butterfinger" was an iconic, memorable line from the past and was a good way of expressing our product irresistibility. So we anchored that as a consistent thread from the past to the present campaign. The second thing we did was we really thought about cultural truth. Cultural truth that people can relate to, but that we as a brand can elevate as entertaining and hyperbolic. So, the cultural truth that I'm referencing for our campaign is we all know it's not okay to steal. It's not okay to steal. But for some reason, when it comes to treats, the candy bars you love, we tend to give into temptation sometimes, whether it's nabbing a bar from your coworker's candy bowl on their desk, or during Halloween, stealing a little chocolate from your kid's trick-or-treat basket. We tend to give into temptation there, and that's just a truth that we all, at one time or another have given into. And then the final piece, that we really thought about was cultural relevance. And how can we find an area of cultural relevance that connects across all ages? So we knew that crime and investigative shows and documentaries have been and continue to be beloved by, the US market. So we put those 3 points together, and pulling all those 3 points together, the outcome was the Butterfinger investigators, or for short, the BFI. And hopefully IT will work for us today. And we've queued up a clip of our launch spot. So it'll be the first clip that we'll show today, which was our launch spot of the campaign that went on TV for, it was a 30-second spot. So hopefully we can get it to stream.
Let's see. I'm excited. There we go.
Butterfinger investigators.
You're set.
Whoa, that's next level.
I'm going in.
Who are you guys? BFI, Butterfinger investigators.
No one lays a finger on your Butterfinger.
Oh, I love that. Okay, tell us a little bit more about this clip.
So that is really kind of the essence of our campaign. Butterfinger is so irresistible. People just want to grab their hands on it. And you have a clever thief that, whether they're hiding behind or some type of clever, ingenious way of trying to get a Butterfinger. But then you have an even more clever owner of the Butterfinger who has hired the BFI to protect that Butterfinger. So, that is the essence of our campaign. And, the one thing when we talk about and anchoring in on innovation, one thing we really considered is that it's not just about a commercial anymore. When launching a new campaign, you need to, no matter how funny or attention grabbing it is, being on, having a 30 or 15-second spot isn't enough. Media is so fragmented now and has really it's become more difficult to capture attention. We as marketers have to think about how we'll connect and reach with our target audience in ways where, in the areas where our consumers are today, but also in a very unique and immersive way, which truly requires a 360 approach. So, if I think back last year when we first launched this campaign, yes, clearly we did deliver a 30-second and 15-second spot, which we all just saw, but we really we had to dig deeper to really think innovatively to deliver this world and characters to consumers. So one of the first things we did was really understand and spend time really focusing on where our target audience are and where they're consuming media, which is on digital and social. Mm-hmm. So we leverage our inspiration of these investigative shows like the CSIs of the world, and we decided to create a full 5-minute webisode, which really allowed us the opportunity to immerse our fans into the world of BFI, as well as our lead characters, Hugh Dunnett and Allie Buys. So, there's so much you can do in 30 seconds. So being able to provide such a comedic and robust piece of work really allowed us to, launch in a robust way and really tell a better expanded story. And we actually, our lead actor, which you saw there, Amir Arison, has a lot of relevance in this space. He's actually currently on NBC's Blacklist. And he truly has an excitement for playing this comedic role, which honestly has really helped elevate the overall work, because we have an actor who is so passionate about the work and really, goes above and beyond to deliver that. One of the other things we really did and thought about was how can we pull people in further? when we launched this campaign last year, we launched it during the Halloween season. So what we decided to do was create a digital promotion. And it was really anchored on the truth that adults tend to steal Halloween candy from kids. I mentioned that earlier. So we encouraged people to turn themselves in to the BFI for stealing Halloween candy for a chance to win cash and prizes. I mention this because it really helped us further the understanding of who the BFI were. So we anchored back onto this cultural truth, and it allowed us and really elevated a promotion around it. And it allowed us to really bring that understanding to our consumers. But when we think about products like chocolate, which are quite, they're immediate consumption, you have to be in the moment. We wanted to ensure that we connected the campaign to the in-store point of purchase environment as well. So we created a display and shopper marketing program, encouraging shoppers to help the BFI crack a safe of stolen Butterfinger bars for, again, to win some cash and prizes. So all around that poll, but really helping to elevate the understanding of who the BFI were and are. So what I'm ultimately getting at, long gone are the days of connecting and engaging with consumers via commercial. We must really think about our target consumer, where they are, how they consume media, and develop plans that will stand out to them, but also truly entertain them, because we know how short, the attention spans are now, and we're being torn in so many different directions. So we really have to make sure that what we're delivering is across touch points and really entertaining to our target consumer, which requires us to really know our consumer.
Yeah, no, I think that's super smart. I think, you guys took a lot of components into consideration and, like what's happening in today's world, what are people most interested in, and how can we actually get our consumers involved? And, when consumers feel like they can actually like play along and, engage with the brand in a fun way, I think you see a lot of success with that. And, I think you guys, having the incentive along with it, we all know that people are, they engage because of incentives. So by adding, cash prizes or, different things that they could win along the way, I think that in itself, help drive the success of, consumer engagement as well. And at the end of the day, it's not something that they're going to forget, because to your point, you all, recruited these actors, especially, the lead from Blacklist, who people are very familiar with. And when people can actually, when they understand and they see something that they already know, that in itself makes it easier to remember. And so I think you guys really pulled in a lot of different innovative things that really work together to bring this, concept to life. And it obviously was successful for you guys because you guys are bringing it back for another year. And I'm excited to see what that looks like for you. I think this could really be a long-term type of, activation for you guys that really just helps, like you said, bring in not only, the consumers that were already purchasing, but also reaching that newer, younger consumer as well that maybe wasn't thinking about Butterfinger in the same way that we wanted them to. So kudos to you guys, because I think it is just the funnest, one of the funnest activations that I've probably seen as a crime lover myself in terms of like shows. This was something that I just think really stood out. So very cool. And thank you so much for just diving into that and, sharing how that kind of came to life.
I appreciate that. And to your point, we had some big shoes to follow from back in, if we think about the late 90s and the Bart Simpson campaign under Butterfinger and how iconic and memorable that was. And we truly believe we have a long-lasting campaign on our hands. So I appreciate that, Melanie. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So looking at this a little more, what about influencers? Like, obviously you mentioned that, consumers are on display and they're on social, especially social. We know that word of mouth is the strongest type of marketing one can do. So where do you feel the opportunity lies with brand marketers? And what is your approach around that? What have you been doing and how has that been working for you guys?
Yeah, so influencers, they are definitely a medium within themselves. They are the new celebrity. So we all, as marketers partner with them and try to work with them in one way or another. I will say over the last couple of years, I have gained some really understanding on how to interact with influencers, thanks to some of the work that we've done to date. I will say, a big challenge many of us face as marketers, including myself on Butterfinger, is how to reach the younger consumer and really foster a desirable brand affinity between the brand and this younger consumer. We did some research, and our research showed a lot of overlap in our target consumer with the gaming community. So we decided we wanted to connect with this group in a big, but it had to be authentic way. So we believe the right way to do so was through partnerships and influencers within this community. So from a partnership perspective, we partnered with major game publishers to deliver experiences and content in some of the most highly anticipated games. We've partnered with Final Fantasy, Halo, etc. And they were experiences and content that you can only get by enjoying a Butterfinger. And that has elevated to our overall campaign title that we've declared as Game Better with Butterfinger. So that was from a partnership play. It's really, partnering with these game titles have helped us, start to enter. But what really truly opened the door for us, and one of my biggest, learnings, I have to say, was really prioritizing relationship building with influencers to truly drive authentic message and content. So it wasn't about the one and done. It's how can we really foster and build relationships with these influencers. And another, learning that I've had, it doesn't have to be influencers with the largest following, but those who have a lot of passion about what they're talking to their followers about who they're engaging with, and influencers who have followers who are loyal and engaged. So those are really the types of influencers we partner with on Twitch and YouTube, and have really helped us connect with the gaming community. I believe the second clip we'll share is just some of the streamers that we most recently worked with back in April and May with Final Fantasy. And I will say you can see in this clip how the streamers are really passionate about the game, passionate about the brand, and you can see the interaction that they have with their community.
We are not measured by third, fourth, or fifth place. We are measured by our personality and who we are and what we stand for. Even if it's Butterfingers or Extra Life.
In the summer of 2021, Butterfinger teamed up with the Final Fantasy XIV online community to raise money for Children's Miracle Network hospitals through Extra Life. Together, 12 content creators streamed more than 77 hours combined, all while spreading the joy of the crispity, crunchity, peanut buttery Chikorpicor mount. This exclusive mount was awarded in-game to anyone who purchased $5 worth of Butterfinger products within the United States, and players boasted a total of 109,355 redemptions.
To another exciting stream for the kids.
We're gonna raise as much money as possible.
Every little donation counts and goes towards Extra Life.
We are making it happen.
The Final Fantasy XIV online community also raised $34,000 for Extra Life in one day, quickly boosting the Game Better with Butterfinger team to the top 5 of the Extra Life leaderboards. With Butterfinger's additional contribution of $50,000, the team helped Children's Miracle Network hospitals meet the urgent needs brought on by the pandemic and change the lives of the 10 million kids treated every year. Now that is gaming better with Butterfinger.
So that was just a recent example, and it was a relatively smaller program that we did, and it was in partnership with the Children's Miracle Network and Extra Life. But we wanted to show that one because first, when people say streamers, people may not know what Twitch is and what the environment looks like. So we wanted to show that. But one of the things that this video also evoked was the enthusiasm of these streamers and how their audiences were reacting. You could see those message boards, light up. And when it comes to influencers, large follower counts aren't the only thing we should be looking for. We should be looking at how engaged their audience is and how much enthusiasm they will bring to your campaign. And as we've thought about influencers, that's really the approach that we have taken. How can these influencers just bring added authentic excitement to what we're talking about and the games that we're partnering with?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I, have a little bit of social background in my background. And what you mentioned earlier around the types of influencers that you're working with, understanding, who's your consumer already over indexing with? How can we reach them where they're already at? And working with influencers that don't necessarily have the highest following, but they have, high engagement amongst those followers that they do have. That's what I think a lot of people sometimes miss is they feel that the number of followers is what's most important, but really at the end of the day, it's the engagement and how much those followers actually trust what that person is telling them. And I think it's really cool that you guys tied in, the nonprofit as well, because I think, as a consumer myself, anytime I can feel like my purchase is going towards the greater good, that makes it even more valuable to me. So very, very cool. Thank you so much for sharing that clip and just sharing more with us around how you guys have been kind of working within the influencer space and reaching those shoppers or consumers within those areas that they're already using. So you're very excited about innovation, obviously, and how to reach these, shoppers in their everyday life. How has Butterfinger, or what are they doing in terms of any possible new product innovations? I know we said that, sometimes innovation doesn't necessarily mean something new, but is there anything new that you guys are doing?
Okay, so I couldn't get out of a innovation summit without talking about product innovation.
Of course.
I'm just going to make one blanket point, and then I'll just talk about a new launch that we have coming out on Butterfinger. I'll make one blanket point about product innovation. It doesn't have to be a complicated new flavor or reformulation to be an innovation that really works. It can simply be watching closely how our consumers are using our product and giving them something that meets that particular need if we haven't to date. So if we're talking about what we're doing immediately, we actually just recently launched, in lieu of the upcoming holiday season, what we've called Butterfinger Baking Bits. And, that is a good example of what I'm referencing when it doesn't need to be a new flavor or innovation to be, an innovation that means something to your consumers and to our customers. So we always knew that consumers love to bake with Butterfinger. It was one of the first insights or ahas I had when joining the brand. When I had conversations with Pinterest and things like that, and we see that just conversation had tended and continues to tend when you talk to Butterfinger around its crispity, crunchy, peanut buttery texture and the flavors that are evoked by this product, how well it works in baking, and how people would grind their Butterfinger and put it into recipes. So we've known that for quite some time. But what we've also seen through COVID is that there has been a consistent rise of at-home baking. And we don't foresee even, in the near future that trend to go down. So what we did was we leveraged both of these trends to move with speed. And I think moving with speed is a key point when you are trying to be nimble and agile and really looking to innovate differently outside of new favors and reformulations. So we moved with speed to deliver a crushed bag for the baking aisle of Butterfinger to really help make it easier for consumers to bake with Butterfinger. This really generated a lot of excitement from our customers and consumers based on a new item, which is simply an innovative way of delivering our core product to our consumers in a way that they were using it, but just making it even more easier and accessible for them. So actually, no surprise, I have it right here next to me, which is the bag of baking bits that we've just launched and are getting ready to really start to talk more about as we enter into the peak baking seasons of November and December.
Yeah, no, I think that is super exciting. As a baker myself, I'm not much of a cook, but I do like to call myself a baker. And that is one thing that I've, in the past I've struggled with is there's certain ingredients or certain types of things that I'd like to include, but it takes like the additional effort of, buying it and, breaking it up myself so that I can sprinkle it on top of a cake or include it within my cupcakes, whatever that may look like. So I think it's really cool. Again, going back to what you said, innovation isn't always something new in terms of flavor or a new product that's outside of what, the base business is. It's taking what you already have and using it in a different way and giving consumers the option to use it in a different way that they're already doing, but having to go through multiple steps to get there. So, and I think it's really smart too, because now you're located in two different areas of the store. So you're in the candy aisle and you're in the baking aisle, and that's never a bad thing. So more shelf space is what we're always, striving for. And you guys have definitely accomplished that with this. And what a time to launch it with, the holidays coming up and baking being such a staple of the holiday season. So very cool. I'm excited to try it out myself.
Feel free to share any creations with me. I'm a big treat guy.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not the best decorator, but I do my best to make them look pretty. That's what I always say. I'm like the one that makes all the cakes for all the family birthdays and everything else, but because of COVID, I haven't necessarily got to do some of my cake decorating classes like I'd like, but I will be sure to share any creations that I happen to make. But very exciting. I wish I could try some right now, to be honest with you. Butterfinger is one of my favorites. So, with that, I think, we have a few more minutes. We're almost at the Q&A. Let me see just if any questions have come in. Okay, cool. So before we jump into some of these questions, we do have one waiting for us. I did want to hear more about, what you're doing with Brand Innovators. I know you're participating in some other panels throughout the week and the time, in the future weeks. So please, if you can, share more about that, because I'm sure some of our participants would love to join those conversations as well.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be sitting in on a round table on Thursday around cultural relevance. So, what I'll say about Brand Innovators is their events, whether it's roundtables, networking dinners, live casts such as this one, have truly been invaluable for me. Brand Innovators does a great job of connecting the marketing community together. And honestly, everyone who's streaming this, I would encourage to take advantage of the many events and resources that Brand Innovators have to offer, and to really continue to help us within the industry connect and network and learn from one another. So I would encourage everyone to get involved as much as possible.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, there's a lot of great things coming up. So you mentioned that roundtable on Thursday. So for anybody that's not already registered, make sure you get registered. I think it's going to be a great discussion. So with that, I'll go ahead and ask you the question that came in. So this came in, Stella from Shopkick here. Do you ever partner across brands, like with Babe Ruth or, 100,000 Bar or Fannie Mae, any type of, brand partnerships? Do you guys explore those often?
Yeah, so I will say we have a portfolio of brands here at Ferrero that we call, specifically within the mainstream chocolate segment. So we have Butterfinger, Crunch, Baby Ruth, 100 Grand. So what we tend to do is, yes, Butterfinger as the flagship, we have a lot of programs that we bring to market, whether it's from gaming or, BFI or what have you. What we make sure is that we definitely bring our other brands along the journey as well. So specifically what that means is if it's an opportunity to buy a product to get an exclusive opportunity, as I mentioned with gaming, that is opened up to the entire portfolio. Okay. And then on top of that, we make sure to include the other brands, especially iconic, the iconic brand of Crunch and Baby Ruth, onto those displays as well, so that we leverage our flagship, and our beacon brand of Butterfinger in the yellow to really help bring the other brands along that journey with us.
Yeah, no, and I think that's really smart. I think anytime that you can, help represent the entire portfolio or multiple, items within the portfolio, that's always a great idea because, at the end of the day, people have their preferences. So by kind of highlighting multiple products within your portfolio, you can ensure that you're really, reaching that consumer with whatever product it is that they tend to buy, in their daily life. So very cool. Thank you, Stella, for that question. We have another one here. What product or brand have you worked on that you feel was the most innovative at the time and why?
So listen, this is gonna, I don't mean to cue it because I'm working on the brand right now. I've worked on some great iconic brands in this category, and there, a lot of brands who really look to drive new product innovation. I wanted to really focus this conversation on Butterfinger because many times it is really hard to really revitalize an iconic brand for a new set of consumers. So as much as I value and appreciate the work that I've done and the new products that I helped launch on other brands within this category, I will say having to stretch ourselves on my team as marketers to think differently and to really move with speed and to connect this brand to a new generation and solely focusing on the core and not having, that new shiny object, but really focusing and revitalizing the core business has been one of the biggest within my career opportunities that I've garnered. And to see the results, to see Butterfinger growing double digits, to be seeing Butterfinger being awarded, being featured as case studies, I must say, again, not because it's just, the brand I'm on right now, it truly has been a highlight. So, within my career.
Yeah, no, I think thanks for sharing that. I think you make a lot of great points there. I'm sure, a lot of people think, the most fun things to work on are the new things, but what can really be really fun is the challenge that's presented in front of you to take, like you said, a known iconic brand and reach a new consumer and let them see why, this product is so special. So I'm sure that's been really fun to do along the way. And obviously, as you've shared today, you've done a lot of cool things to help achieve that goal, with working with gaming influencers and building out the BFI, which I just truly, truly love. I think you've been able to really take that challenge and dominate it, in my opinion, with some of these activations you've been able to come up with. So we do have another question, but I selfishly want to ask you one myself. So I'm just curious, coming from the vendor side, what does like marketing and planning look like for you now? And what are you most excited for as we kind of close out 2021 and go into 2022? Are you planning farther ahead because of this new crazy normal that we're in? Or is it really more of, kind of in the moment, this is what we're seeing, and so this is what we're going to do?
Yeah, no, we're actually about to really kick off our next year of planning. We need to, as much as it's a tale of two stories, I always say. You have to be nimble, but you also have to plan ahead. And especially within the CPG world, we tend to have, as many of us who are on the line know, longer lead times with packagings and displays and, getting partnerships together. So you have to start early. And I'm very excited about seeing how we can continue to really elevate what's working on the brand to date and continue to drive that. But to your point, we also need to make sure we're being nimble. So as much as we plan ahead, we also dedicate time, money, resources to ensure that we can be agile with our plans and jump upon what's happening, whether it's, the short-term social to, maybe some innovation, as I mentioned. You just need to plan ahead, but also have the team in place and the nimbleness and the agility to pivot in real time, but also jump upon something that is really true and core to your brand that may be happening in real time.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think, I'm always giving kudos to the brands that are planning ahead, but at the same time, you, like you said, you have to be able to move in the moment. And so by you guys really, being thoughtful in that way and allocating some of your resources for some of that real time activity that's happening, you are able to do both, and be successful in doing both. So very cool. Thanks for answering my question. We do have another one here, specific around like the influencers and what you're doing there. So for you, you talked about the micro influencers, or really, do you try to balance macro and micro influencers? What does that look like when you guys are kind of strategizing your influencer activations?
Yes, 100%. I would say overall, no matter micro or macro, we first start with, does this influencer really evoke organically the tone and the personality that matches the brand? Mm-hmm. I think, when we first start off looking for influencers, you want to make sure that what they're organically, whether it's a macro or micro, what they're putting out there on their own without any brand partnerships really align, because that's, one of the biggest step forwards. And again, I would say even with macro influencers, it doesn't really connect well, and you don't really see that authenticity when you're just partnering with someone just for their following base. Folks see through that, and then you can also see it in the engagement numbers. So there are moments in time where we do partner with macro influencers because it meets the objectives. They have a particular, organically, they love the brand, or their personality or their persona really matches. Well, for us, it's really that one of a kind, self-directed person that really stands out and really owns who they are. If they match that, that's great. And if they meet our objectives, and if we believe that they will garner the engagement that we were looking for, of course. But, there are many of times where micro influencers really have worked even stronger for us. And it allows us to span a wider net of influencers to partner with. And we really see the passion come through, both from those influencers, but also the followers. And that's what's most important, is they become the voice of your brand in those moments. And how are their followers receiving and the brand at that time? And we, some of these mid to smaller influencers, you definitely see that excitement and that engagement come through.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, again, kind of what we were talking about earlier, engagement rate is more important than followership, and I, as a consumer myself that's on social, I can clearly tell when something is like forcefully sponsored versus like authentically sponsored. Like at the end of the day, we know these influencers are working with brands and that they may be getting paid for that partnership, but based off what they've posted in the past or what they talk about in their daily, feed, really affects the way in which I engage with that content and how I view that message and how I perceive it, so very interesting and very much aligned with just how I think as well as a consumer. So with that, I just want to take a moment to pause. I think we're about at time. So, but if not, Ryan, let us know and we'll keep it going. All right.
We are, but
yeah,
happy to keep it going.
I was about to say, we can keep going. I haven't been kicked off yet. No. Oh, hey there, Ryan.
So that was just the first half. We're just going to let you keep going for the rest.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
I unfortunately do have to call it there. But it is one of those things where, we'd love to pick up this conversation at another point in time. And for our listeners at home and for Melanie and Miguel, I hope it goes without saying that, if our audience has any questions, to use that chat window down below to ask you those questions there, shoot you a message on your LinkedIn. And connect with you at that point, to keep the conversations rolling. That's what we want to do. We want to continue to build a network and a community here where we can educate and we can share our thoughts and ideas. So thank you both for your time.
Oh, it was wonderful. Thank you for having me.
A great time. Thank you, Ryan and Brand Innovators, and Melanie, thank you for facilitating a great chat.
Oh, of course. Yes, Miguel, thanks for the great conversation. So couldn't have done it without you, obviously, but it was great. Thank you guys all around.
All right.
Awesome. Well, we are going to move on to our next segment. And with our next segment, we're going to have the Senior Director of Marketing for Schlotzsky's under Focus Brands. And that director is Casey Tyrell. This is a great conversation who our moderator, Scott Schnars, is going to be discussing with us from Cloud and Aries America division. That's the VP of Sales. That's Scott. And Scott's going to be the one who's